So quite unsurprisingly, the most popular option for this week's recitation was the loop and branch examples. They're quite difficult until you gain the muscle memory, so I highly recommend you go to the link that's on screen. It's also in the description if you're watching on YouTube, and download the follow along files and fill them in as you watch the video so that you can gain that muscle memory. Quick disclaimer before we go on, Xylabs, if you're a student, you use Xylabs, and that does not have some of the instructions and functionality inside these files, but all the stuff that I fill in, Xylabs does have. So the first of the five, and the simplest of the five, is an if statement, right? This, you have some sort of expression that returns true or false, and then you run some kind of code if it returns true, and you skip it if it's false. Right, so there's two places that I have to add code here. This one here to branch, and this one here to change the value that I test. So if you look at this comment here, it'll say that the value, the variable we're testing is the temporary number 0 register. So I'm going to load immediate, and then the destination is t0, and then the value I'm just going to do right now is 0, right? And then we want to have a branch where this code here that I'm selecting will run if t0 is 1. However, we have to do the opposite of that, right? If t0 isn't 1, we have to skip over this. So we have to branch if not equal, right? And then source does not equal the other source. So t0 does not equal 1. And then we move to if statement skip. Cool. And then the no op. And that looks good. So let me run this. Cool. The output here, it's a lot, but this spim, the thing that I'm running the file with, kind of just prints this out every single time. And then it prints this out, the thing I'm using to actually run spim when it finishes. So because this code didn't run, it didn't print out this string down here, right? So if I change this value to a 1, then this branch shouldn't skip this if statement, and then this should run. So let me run it again. And that's correct. If statement was successful. Right. The second loop is a while loop. Now this will run as long as the condition returns true, and it will always jump up to the top when it gets to the bottom, and then it will check again. So there's 3 places where we have 4 places actually where we have to add code. Right. There's setting the variable to check, skipping over the loop if the while is not true, incrementing the variable so that we don't loop forever, and then making sure to jump back to the start at the end of the loop so we can check again. So it says t0 is equal to 0, so I'm going to load immediate, t0 and 0, right? And then it says while t0 is equal to 5, then we run this. So we want to, it is less than 5, not equal to 5. So if t0 is greater than or equal to 5, we shouldn't run this and we should skip over. So branch if greater than or equal to, and we want to check against temporary 0. We want to check against the value of 5. And then if it's greater than or equal to 5, we want to skip over the while loop. So we go to while loop exit. Cool. And then the no op is there. And then we increment t0. So we add I, or t0, t0, 1. And then we're going to jump back to the start. So jump. And then target is while loop start. All right, that's great. So if this works, we should run it. We should see the string print out while loop is being executed 5 times for t equals 0, equals 1, equals 2, equals 3, and equals 4. When it equals 5, it'll skip over the loop and exit. So let me run this. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. That's correct. Now if we change t0 equal to 1, we should see it printed out 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there we go. A do while loop is slightly different than a while loop. It will always run the first time, and the check happens at the bottom to see if it should jump back up to the top. But it's basically the same process. It's just slightly less code. So want to make t0 equal to 0, so load immediate, t0, 0, and then it'll print out the string, and then it'll increment t0, right? So we want to add immediate to t0, and we're going to add for t0 to 1, correct? And then while t0 is less than 5, we want to jump back up to the top, right? So if t0 is less than 5, we will jump back to the top. Otherwise, we will skip the branch. So we want to branch if less than, right? If t0 is less than 5, we do want to branch. T0, 5, and we do while start, and then no up. And that should be good. Let me run this. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, a quick note about this, you'll notice that t0++ is here, meaning the first time this goes through, t0, our variable that keeps track of how many times we've run through the list, will be 1 here. But it makes sense because it'll still run 5 times, because it'll run for when t0 is 1, it'll jump back to the top, and it'll run a second time. Then when t0 is equal to 4, it'll jump up and run for a 5th time. Because it runs the first time no matter what, you sort of add 1 to the amount of times that it runs. All right, cool. For loop is sort of just a while loop. It's just kind of got a little bit of a different syntax. It's a lot easier in C code to understand the different syntax, but it's effectively just a while loop. So I'll just sort of put everything in without too much commentary, load immediate into t0, which I'm using for all of these, 0. And then while I is less than 5, run the loop. So branch if greater than or equal to t0. We want to check against 5, and we want to skip over the loop if it is greater than or equal to 5. So that's for loop exit. All right. And then we need to add 1 to I. So add I, $ times t0, 1, t0, not 1, values after that. And then 1. So we're adding 1 to t0, and then we're going to statically jump back to the top. For loop start, not setup, because for the setup, where you set up your variable, the first of the 3 things in a for loop, you don't want to redo that every single time. Otherwise, this loop will run forever. We don't want that. Okay, let me run this. Okay, that's interesting. Why is this not working? It's only running 1 time. That's interesting. Oh boy. Why is it only running 1 time? It's weird. What? What am I missing here? Hang on. I can maybe remove this? What is going on? Oh. Yeah, okay, so this is incorrect syntax. So that was the problem right there. So you can see it's being run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So that's when I equals 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, but not when it equals 5. So it's 5 total times. All right, so the last one I'm going to go over is quite complicated. It's an if-else statement. The biggest thing you need to understand about this is in an if-else block, you only run one of the possible candidates, right? So if the if statement, the first if statement returns true, you do not check against the other 2 if statements, or any if statements, and you do not run the else. You only run one of them. Otherwise, you would just put subsequent if statements, right? So when one of the cases returns true, you then skip all of the rest of them, right? So format of this is relatively similar. You just have to jump out of each loop once you're done with it. Not loop, if statement. So value to test, it's also t0, so load immediate, t0, and 0. Well, let's test 0 here. So then we're testing if t0 is 0 according to this comment. So we will want to branch if not equal to t0 and 0, and we're going to do if statement if 0 skip. So we're going to skip over this if statement and check against the next one, the else if statement, if it's not equal to 0, because we will run this if it is equal to 0. Right, so if statement meant if 0 skip. I did not press tab. Come on, keyboard. There we go. Cool. And then that will run this. And then what we need to do is, now that we've run this, we need to skip over the rest of these. So there's this label here, if statement skip, and we need to jump to that so it doesn't run the other two cases if those return true. So we just need to statically jump to if statement exit. Exit. Right, and that's what it is. Skip, not exit. All right. And then the else if statement is literally the exact same. So we're going to branch if not equal to t0, 1, and then if statement if 1 skip. Cool. And then we're also going to jump to if statement skip at the end of that. Right. And then else, this will always run under any condition, right? There is no condition this will not run as long as you get to here, so that you don't have to put a branch up here. And you don't have to put anything else down here, because once this completes, you've skipped all the other cases anyway. So that's all good. So let me run this, right? And it says value is 0 because I set the value to 0. So this returns false, so it will run this code here, and it will jump over the other two statements, right? So if I change this to 1, it'll say that the value is 1, because this will return true, and it will skip to here, and it will check against 1. This will return false, so it'll run this code, and then skip over everything else, and exit, right? And if I change it to, say, 8, or literally anything that's not 0 and 1, it'll say that it's neither 0 or 1, because this will return true, it'll skip over, check against 1, this will return true, it'll skip over, and then it'll just run this and exit.